Hello, this is video to show how I do Raku, American style. So these are just flashes of photographs to show the whole process. Uh, Afterwards there will be videos. This is the finished product of the Raku. Okay, so you start with a clay, any of the natural clay, and you need to temper your clay by adding sand. Okay, I already sieved the sand, so it's just very fine particles. There are no like big chunks of the sand, and then you need to knead it until it's completely even, that the sand is uniformly distributed into the clay. And I add about 20% by volume of sand into the clay. As you're kneading the sand into the clay is gonna start to become very short. It'll start cracking because the sand kind of dries up the clay. So from time to time, I would dip my hand in the water and make the clay wetter and stickier, and that will help to distribute it easier and make the clay still plastic that you can form it later. Okay, so I'll spend about for this size of clay maybe about 5 minutes of kneading the sand little by little until about 20%. It doesn't have to be exact, but that's about it. You can also add some sawdust that or I also sieve the sawdust first. So or paper pulp. Yeah, if you can make paper pulp, you can also add into the clay. This will help to make the clay become more thermal shock proof. Okay, because the whole raku process, there'll be a lot of extreme changes of heat from very hot temperature to room temperature to cold, so if your clay is not tempered with the sand or and paper, it will usually crack or break apart as you're doing the raku process. And then after I do the clay, it's been prepared, I shape it by pinching. You can also use any of the other forming method by coiling, slabbing, right? And then when it's bone dry, you can use the raku glaze. So raku glaze are usually glaze that are very low temperature in melting. Okay, like this raku glaze that I'm using melts at around 900 degrees Celsius. All right, normal glazes will usually need at least 1,100 degrees Celsius. Okay, now I'm also adding copper oxide into the raku glaze, which will help to get the many colors and lusters of the copper, since copper is very sensitive to atmospheric changes. Okay, and the raku process, there will be a heavy post reduction after the firing, and that would usually makes the whole pot uh, lustrous and become metallic almost, right? From copper metal to like greenish to golden, uh, and I add around 15 to 20% of copper oxide into the glaze. If you can measure it dry, it'll be better, but yeah, it's around there. Or you can, in liquid form, you add about 15 to 20% of copper oxide or copper carbonate in there. This is the kiln that I'm using. It's an electric kiln. It's usually for testing glazes. So first, after it's been glazed, I let it sit for a day just to make sure all the glaze is dry completely, the clay is dry completely. Then I put it in the kiln and then I do another drying process, which is I keep it at about 90 degrees Celsius, 95 degrees Celsius, and leave it for around 1 hour. Right? This is to get rid of any of the moisture, any water, chemical water left in the clay. Right. And then after that, I fire it quickly, about 1 hour, to start melting the glaze, the raku glaze on the pot. So the whole pot of the The whole point of just tempering the clay with the sand helps to be able to increase the temperature, which usually takes about 9 hours to reach 1000 degrees. We're doing it all in about 1 hour time, so everything is like sped up. It's very fast. I'm torching here because my electric kiln is not powerful enough to make the Raku glaze melts, so I'm helping it with the blowtorch from the outside. So this is now ready to be to take out and put into the can underneath there. The can has newspaper in it and papers, just scrap papers. So you need combustible. You want the paper to burn because the pot is taken out really hot, red hot right now. It's around 900 degrees Celsius. And as soon as you put it in the can with the paper or combustible in it, you can also use like dry leaves, hay, other stuff, anything combustible. That would burn the paper and create a lot of smoke. So you're actually making the whole pot react in a post-reduction atmosphere, like a very heavy post-reduction atmosphere. Okay. And the pot is very hot, so I'm taking it with a tongue, carefully put it in there. The paper is gonna start burning, and I'm gonna put a little bit more paper, scrap paper on top of it, just to make sure everything is covered up, the whole smoke is covering it up. Then I'll close it up. The fire will kind of still burning, but because it's lacking oxygen, it will start creating smoke, so you can start seeing a lot of the smokes coming up from the side of the can. And that's what you want. You want a lot of smokes to get the post-reduction happening. And that post-reduction is the one that will react with the glaze that has a lot of copper oxide in it to make the results more lustrous, more metallic looking. Okay. So if you skip the first process where you temper the clay and you do this, most of the time the clay will not be able to handle all that extreme temperature difference, and you'll end up with cracks. So since it already been tempered with the sand, it is now be able to survive that extreme change of temperature and all that stuff. The can, the pot has been in that can for about 15 to 20 minutes. That's usually enough to create all the effects that you want. So now I'm just quenching it in water to cool it down faster. And you can start seeing bubbles being come out from the pot. That's because Raku pots are usually very porous, and it contains basically thousands, millions of fine little cracks all around the glaze and the ceramic itself. Yeah, so you see all that luster that came out from the post-reduction. This is typical with the Raku glaze that has copper oxide. You get green, you get metallic red, you get sometimes golden color, all kinds of combinations like a rainbow. And Raku pots are usually not used for food because of the porosity, that it is still quite porous. It's a very soft fired clay since it's only reaching temperature up to 900 degrees. In this case, I do everything raw, so the clay hasn't been fired, hasn't been misfired. Okay. So it was glazed while it was still raw, bone dry stage. Yeah, so this is the whole process again, just a photographer. So I hope you learn a lot and try it yourself with Raku. It's a lot of fun, a lot of excitement since you're getting everything done fast. Thank you.